Hey everybody, I'm Sierra.
And I'm Ben.
And welcome back to another episode of The Unsolved Couple, where every week Ben and I recap one of your original gateway drugs into true crime.
Unsolved mysteries.
Okay, babe, we are back at it again. Another week, another episode of Unsolved Mysteries.
Not just any episode.
No.
Season 3.
Season 3.
Episode 1.
Mm-hmm. So Ben did a little bit of discovery the other night. He realized that on Peacock, right?
Yes.
They have the
Unsolved
Mysteries from Film Rise, but in the subtitles, it says what
real episode it is.
Yes. So we need to, and it's just going to be tedious.
And they're in different order.
And they're in different orders than they are on YouTube. So if anyone's been watching this on Peacock and thinking that we are cuckoo nut, we watch Unsolved Mysteries. Originally, we watched it on Prime Video, which I think, do you still watch it on Prime Video from time to time?
Not really. Here and there.
I watch it on YouTube because there's far less ads.
Prime and YouTube are the same.
Yeah, they're the same format, but Prime ads were ridiculous. Sometimes where it was like 3 or 4 minutes of commercials, and YouTube has very few. So that's where I do.
Skip button.
And it has a skip button, which I appreciate. And so, we need to sit down and map out so we can see exactly what episodes are missing and then try to see if we can find them in a different way. If anything, there should be transcripts available on unsolvedcouple or unsolved.com.
Yeah. I don't know.
But that's where we're at with that.
We're still diving deep into it.
Yeah. And the last month of our life has been so busy. I'm actually really looking forward to like the next couple of weeks, knock on wood, right? Life is slowing down a little bit before we get right back into
I'm excited for today.
School.
That's why I'm excited. We're recording early.
Mm-hmm.
And I get done. I turn on some baseball. The kids are home they've been gone for a week, at least the twins. I'm excited for them to be home and hang out with them. Get in the pool, take a nap.
Mm-hmm.
Watch some Stranger Things later.
Yeah, it's going to be a great day.
So I got to get this out of the way.
And I will say, there's night owls, and then there's early birds or whatever. I am an afternoon queen. I am peak Sierra after about 10:30 in the morning, but well before like 7 o'clock at night. So recording in the afternoon before like a nap or anything, or even like a big heavy meal. Like we've recorded sometimes after dinner, and that's sometimes hard because I feel like I'm barely keeping my eyes open. And I got a dirty Diet Coke.
That's dangerous.
I know. So, and for people that don't know what a dirty Diet Coke is, it is Diet Coke with lime and coconut. I like fresh lime, coconut syrup, and syrup, and a splash of heavy cream or some sort of coffee creamer or something. People do all kinds of crazy stuff with them, but that's what I'm sipping on today. So it's going to be a good day.
We're starting out good.
We're starting out good. So everyone who's listening to this, you're all going to have a good day. We're going to
start your Tuesday out great.
Yes, you're
with
welcome.
Some good unsolved mysteries that I know you guys are like, man, I watched this and I need to know. So I listen to this podcast and I have to know. I've been waiting 30-something years
to talk about it with somebody.
Yeah, it's my favorite show, but it shouldn't be. You're weirdos.
You're weirdos. Okay, so we're recapping season 3, episode 1. There's 4 stories. One big main one that takes up like 25 minutes of the episode, and then these 3 little mini stories.
Yeah, I got hoodwinked into 3 stories today.
You did.
I was told originally.
I thought that there was 2, and then, yeah. But because last time I think I did the smaller stories and you did the bigger stories in last week's episode. So I didn't want to pin that on you again.
I did the RFK one.
Yeah. And which again took up like over half of the episode. And that's how this one is too. And so we kind of swapped. And I think that next week, because I watched ahead, I think it's kind of the same thing. I don't know if this is their new format. There's like one big main story and then a couple of like mini stories afterwards. But next week, we're going to be talking about the Bermuda Triangle. So I'm excited. So everyone be on the lookout for that. So real quick, off the top before Ben gets us started, did you know that you can support the Unsolved Couple podcast?
I didn't know.
You didn't know that?
Tell me all about it.
Okay, so in the show notes below, there is going to be a link that says support us or support the show. When you sign up to show your support, you please leave your name and your favorite 90s or 2000s memory or your favorite episode of Unsolved Mysteries, and Ben and I will read it out loud on the show. You can also follow us on social media, leave us a 5-star rating and review. Right now, if you do that, you get a sticker. Just grab a screenshot of it and send it to me. DM me on any of our socials, and I will get that into the mail to you. You can follow us on TikTok and Instagram at Unsolved Couple Pod. We have a Facebook group that we talk about the episodes, and that is Unsolved Couple Podcast Discussion Group. And you can email us with any other questions or inquiries at unsolvedcouplepodcast@gmail.com. Okay, so that is my housekeeping notes for now. I'll drop a few in later so we don't just get Ben for 3 solid stories without a little bit of Sierra sprinkled in there, which is really all anybody wants. Ben with Sierra sprinkles.
I don't want that. I just want Sierra. That's
Ben's like, if anyone wants to take over my part of this, you will gladly turn it over.
I'm a little disappointed.
Okay.
When we started this, you said that every once in a while you would have a guest speaker take my spot.
I did say that.
And you know how many times you've had a guest?
0.
I've had to fill in here.
You've had to fill in your own commitment.
Exactly.
So that's not filling in.
I need a vacation.
I planned on having guest speakers if you were going to be out of town and we needed to record.
Well, I don't get snacks and no guest speaker to take my spot so I can take a vacation.
Our kids have offered multiple times to tell the stories.
I'm here for our 11-year-old to do it. That would be wonderful.
We would never get to anything.
All right.
All right. What do you have for us?
Okay. Lost love.
Another lost love.
This one was kind of weird. Well, not weird, but it was interesting. So Robert Stack comes in. He tells us that they had an interesting situation come to them they were telling the story of the murderer, John Mooney. They were giving, I guess they said they were giving the update on him getting caught. Do you remember the story of John Mooney?
Barely.
All right. He was the guy that killed, it was the one in Georgia, the 2 pizza guys, the restaurant owner and the pizza owner.
Oh, yes.
And he hired someone to kill him.
They were battling it out. Yeah. Restaurant
wars. He was convicted, went to jail, then escaped.
He hired the hitman who immediately went to the barkeep and was like, hey, guess what I did?
And hey, do you need anyone?
Do you need anybody killed? Because I'm available.
Yeah. And then left the country, but came back 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
Anyways, he was convicted, sent to prison, but he escaped. And that was the unsolved mystery. They were looking for him.
Got it.
And he'd been missing for years. He was in Scottsdale and they caught him.
Okay.
So when they did the update, they interviewed people that knew him in Scottsdale.
Yeah.
And one of the guys that got interviewed was the name of LeVar Bates.
Okay.
And he just tells I would have never suspected, because this guy, he went on to get married and have a kid or 2.
He was an accountant or something, wasn't he?
Yeah. So they interview one of his coworkers, LeVar Bates, and there's a lady watching Unsolved Mysteries and she recognizes LeVar right away.
Yeah.
So this is what our story is. It's not the story of John.
No,
Moody
this
and
is
the
Unsolved
Catcher.
Mysteries saying, hey,
We
this
created-
happened in our newsroom or our whatever. Yeah, call center. This is the story that happened.
So we get this lady, Peggy, she comes on to tell us, like, I know LeVar, and this is how I know him. I met him in Amarillo, Texas in 1958.
Isn't there a song about Amarillo? Amarillo by morning. That one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good. Great song.
It's a great song. I agree.
So 1958, Amarillo, Texas, 22-year-old Lamar Bates is working as a construction worker.
Mm-hmm.
And he meets Peggy Atwood at a barn dance.
Yeah.
And
could that be any more Texas?
I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
I am here.
I mean,
for
you
it.
and I basically go barn dancing almost every weekend.
We do go out to the country bar and go dancing most weekends. And we have a lot of fun. It's great. We went last night.
Mm-hmm.
Great music. A lot of fun. A lot of dancing. It was a lot of fun. So when I hear, I'm like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Great. Well, they meet each other and they fall in love and they have a fling. You know,
I don't know if I'd say they fell in love. They were enamored with each other.
Well, okay. You can call it that. So they're getting together. Lamar's driving like the hour every weekend to be with Peggy, and they're driving around and spending time together.
Listening to music and driving around. Yeah,
it's the late 50s.
The reenactment, people are like driving in like a convertible, like a car with the top down, right? Listening to music, just being young adults in a tiny little town in Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the late 50s.
Having a good time.
All right. Mm-hmm. So she says, excuse me, sorry. One weekend, she surprised him at his hotel room and wherever he was, Amarillo. I'm not sure because they were in two different places, but they met in Amarillo.
Yeah, they were about an hour apart from each other.
So he meets her. He's like, come inside. I just got out of the shower.
He's staying at a hotel or like a motel.
He's staying at a hotel because he's working for a moving construction company, I guess. They're just moving around the country. And as she's there waiting for him to finish getting ready so they can go out, she sees a picture of a girl on his dresser. Did you catch the name?
Mitzi or something.
Fifi.
It was something like that.
That is a great name.
Fifi.
Great name. Have you ever met someone named Fifi?
I don't think so. I think I would remember if I had, but no. But I am just picturing this situation. This is a guy in his early 20s, living in a hotel room, traveling, probably making decent money, probably even under the table, just getting to see the United States or traveling around, doing hard labor, but probably getting paid well for it. His room was probably taken care of. And he meets this girl and she shows up unannounced, which from a female's perspective is really what most of us just wanted from our boyfriends in that time, is to just show up at our door and be like, oh, I missed you or I was thinking about you. I don't think guys at that age necessarily had the same sentiment, especially if he is also potentially chitty-chatting with other local gals.
Well, I don't know. Anyways, Fifi's picture's there, and that really upsets Peggy.
As it should.
And he says, that's just a friend.
Just a friend.
He does say in the thing that we've just gone on a few days, but it's nothing serious. Not like what I have with you, Peggy. So.
Clearly, Peggy was under the impression that this was far more serious than what he did.
Anyways, they get into a fight, and she storms out.
She says, I'm done. And goodbye. Have fun with Fifi.
She storms out, and that was the last time that Peggy saw Lamar.
Mm-hmm.
Come to find out, Peggy realizes
8.5 months later,
after the fact, she's pregnant with Lamar's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
She has a daughter, and I guess the next day, Lamar was transferred to Colorado. And he's doing construction. He's moving all over the country. Yeah. She loses touch. Has no way of ever contacting Lamar.
Contacting him. His contact number was the hotel.
Exactly.
Yeah. And this is before Google and all of that stuff. So
there's no way. She probably has no idea where he's even originally
I cannot
from.
even imagine being 19, pregnant, and having no way to contact the guy and be like, hey, BT dub.
Yeah. So she raises this girl on her own, and she tells her about her father.
Yeah, she was open about that.
She has no idea where he is or anything.
How to get a hold of him or anything.
Until she's watching Unsolved Mysteries, realizes, holy smokes, that's him.
Yeah.
Doesn't tell her daughter right away.
Yeah.
She contacts Unsolved Mysteries, tells them the story. And so they say, all right, we will contact Lamar, give him this information.
And what he chooses to do with it. Yeah.
So he says, he's like, I was taken back. I was a little scared. Rightfully so. He has no idea.
Yeah.
By this time, he's living in the Arizona area because he was working with that guy. He's married, has 2 kids, so I don't think he was married to Fifi. But yeah, he did. He contacted them, and they actually met in August of 1990. So it actually, because that aired, they said the update had aired on July 4th, 1990. So within a month or a month and a half, they got together.
Unsolved Mysteries is on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they did. They met, and this girl got to meet her father, and he got to meet the daughter that he had no idea. I mean,
can you imagine?
No.
Finding out, because we are now 40, finding out you have a grown adult child.
Well, he even says, he's like, 30 years is a long time.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, it is a long time.
So anyways, they meet.
All right. Was there any update or follow-up or anything?
Yeah, I did look for updates.
Yeah.
Lamar passed away in 2001. So, but there wasn't much. They didn't put much out there after that. There wasn't much news or anything like that. So I don't know if they kept in contact for after that. But anyways, they met. There's your lost love.
There we go. All right. Before Ben tells us our next story, I want to remind everybody that we do have a Halloween costume contest going on. Ben's Halloween costume contest. So I, for many years, have tried to get Ben to dress up as some of these key characters, most of them from 90s and 2000 nostalgia, some even late 80s. And Ben has always refused. However, he has agreed that if we can hit some download goals, he will dress up. The very first tier, we are 1,156 downloads away from Ben dressing up as Ice from Hocus Pocus, including putting it in the back of his head where it says Ice.
I don't think so.
Yes. You already agreed to this.
I take it. I take it all back.
So the next one after that, I think goal number 2, I don't remember what the numbers are, is like Zach Morris and Kelly Kapowski from Saved by the Bell. We've got Edward Scissorhands on there. We've got Mr. Darcy. And then the ultimate one is Ben dressing up as none other than my very first crush, which was the Goblin King from Labyrinth, my love, David Bowie.
That's concerning that that's your crush.
I was 8 years old. I watched that movie for my 8th birthday, my first slumber party, and I was like, I love this man. I thought Sarah was stupid for trying to leave that place.
Not wanting to stay with him?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. But some of my books that I read, does that kind of also make sense now?
It tracks.
It tracks.
It does. It tracks.
All right, Ben, what is our next story?
Golly, you guys going to get me twice in a row. 3 times.
3 times in a row.
All right. We got an arsonist story. I think this is our first arsonist story.
I think it is too.
Well, no, the lady with the dogs.
Oh.
They burned that one, and that guy is
he was an arsonist, but he also did other things. But this guy was specifically being looked at or this was an arson investigation.
Yeah. So Stockton, California.
Oh, we also had the guy that burned his house down with a fake with a real body inside that pretended to be him. Remember that with the ring on the guy's finger?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot about
that was
story.
A crazy story.
That one was a little wild. 10 years to the day.
I don't think he ever got caught.
I don't think so.
No.
I can't remember.
No,
I try
I
to
think so.
forget all these stories.
The moment we're done recording, Ben's like, I got nothing.
I got to forget it.
All right, go ahead.
All right. Stockton, California. We got anyways, this family, they break down on the side of the road. Their car overheats. So the dad and his son say, we're going to walk to the payphone. This just sucks. Like, this is the reality.
Anyone who grew up in this time remembers these situations happening. And literally, if you're stuck on the side of the road, there is nothing you can do about it.
You either have to walk or just hope for the kindness of a
human stranger. And as a female, you have to hope it's not a weirdo.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, so him and his son start walking down the road to get to a telephone. They come across this camo jacket on the side of the road.
Sweet.
They kind of like kick it, and there's heavy metal tapes in there, but there's also a videotape. And they take the videotape.
Okay.
I know. I don't know if I would want.
What was your first, in all honesty, if you found a blank tape on the side of the road, what is your first assumption is on that tape? Nakedness.
Yeah. Exactly. Or
XXX.
Or like
nothing good.
A crime.
Yes.
And which technically this is.
This is. And nothing good. Especially we've seen The Ring.
That's because
we have seen the Blair Witch Project. We don't want to see unmarked videotapes. But
here, I'll say this. This is this actually aired in 1989. This is one of this stuff gets plugged in. Or not, maybe it was 19. Anyways, you got to think though, video cameras were practically brand new at this time.
Mm-hmm.
They'd only been around for a few years. So it's not like we know what we know where we see a tape and we're like, well, back then you're like, holy smokes, a tape, that's pretty sweet.
I know, but the next step would not be what this guy did.
Watch it with this family.
Yeah, gather round children.
Anyway, so they take it home.
They don't even screen it. They take the tape home. They leave the music. They're like, I'm not, especially we're at a camo jacket and heavy metal music. Do you think this is going to be a family birthday party on this tape? No. They go home and he brings in his entire family. Popcorn,
at least that's how the reenactment
and
does it.
Starts the tape blindly. My heart was racing.
Maybe he was hoping it was a movie that they hadn't purchased yet, like The Goonies,
like a bootleg copy of something.
Bootleg of The Goonies. You know,
that would have been your best luck.
Yeah, that would have been great.
Yeah, but that wasn't the case.
No, it wasn't. They start watching it, and it's a video of a house burning.
Instant red flag.
And someone talking and narrating this. Like saying, and I've wrote down some of the quotes.
Okay.
Beautiful. See what I can do. Things like that.
In
the
a
guy is
creepy
talking
voice.
in this creepy voice.
Yeah.
So the dad turns it off, takes it to the authorities.
I just imagine what the look the wife is giving her husband. Like, I cannot believe you thought this was a good idea.
Yeah. So he takes it to the authorities. So they start investigating it. They are watching it. They're enhancing the audio. And they're trying to figure out first off, where is it?
Yeah. Whose house is this? Yeah. Is this a crime? What is happening?
Then they get some clues. Like he says, look at it, Omar, not Lamar. That was the other guy from the print. Yeah. I said I'd do it. And he's laughing. He has like the Joker laugh in the background.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So they watch it over and over. They get a script.
The guy said he's like starts having bad dreams.
Yeah, the guys say this thing kind of creeped me out. Fair.
When you watch it, I'll post it. It is creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was like the California Department of Forestry. They're the ones investigating it.
That's
who they tell. So they're looking for where did this happen? Because they say there's a few things they do get. They get a reference to 1988. Mm-hmm. So they think it probably took place then. The police or the investigators actually have the family take them back. That camouflage jacket is still there. And with it, they find a wooden pestle. I don't know what that is.
It's what you use to like grind up herbs.
Okay.
The mortar and pestle is the piece that you use.
And then a glove and a ceramic skull.
I forgot about this
part.
They
think it's involved in Satanism, which, you know what? They were actually correct. They were correct.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Did you not see some of the videos I showed you?
I did see some of the videos. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They're a little correct on that. And he makes references in the video like, this is my hell. Sorry. I'm going to have to edit that. I know it was a bad word.
We don't have to edit that word. It's not a...
And like, I'm going to burn your soul up.
Gross.
Yeah. He makes some weird references.
Yeah.
So that's where Unsolved Mysteries leaves us. Hey, does anyone know, one, where this happened? Any information on this? Blah, blah, blah. They said they got a ton of tips. So you ready?
Update.
They got a ton of tips. A neighbor actually called and said, yeah, I recognize that house. There's a house behind us.
It's my backyard. Yeah.
And turns out that house got burnt August 15th, 1988. It was actually under construction. That's why no one was living at it.
Okay. No one was hurt.
At the time. And actually, the fire captain, when he arrived on scene, he actually set up a camera also and videotaped at the command center because it was a massive fire. The thing was...
it was an inferno, for sure.
And he said, he's like, we recorded this for training purposes and to like go over it afterwards. Mm-hmm. And they compared it and realized, yes, it's 100% the same. So then one tip led them to a youth, a 17-year-old youth.
It's a teenager, right?
Yep. And interviewing him led them to a 19-year-old Redwood City youth. Oh yeah, sorry. They located that the fire had taken place in Redwood City, California. Because that was the other thing. They're like, we have no idea. This could be anywhere in the U.S.
Yeah.
Technically. So those two boys were they admitted to it and they were arrested and they were sentenced. One spent some time in juvenile jail. They both were tried as juveniles because technically when it took place, they both were juveniles. The other one did some time in a mental hospital and was released.
Okay.
I got a little more information.
This was hard because since they were sentenced as juveniles, their names weren't released originally,
technically,
were they?
And their names are still not out
okay.
There.
So these records are sealed, yeah.
The Omar was a big clue. A lady called and said, I think that's my neighbor. His name is Omar and he's a kid. And they found a bunch of stuff in one of these kids' garages of
very disturbing things.
Yeah, one, he had a table with mutilated animals.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually one of the biggest indicators of a serial killer is
and other videos of him they would dress up as vampires and things. And I watched some videos because there was actually other stories done on this. They said some really weird and crazy stuff. Clearly, they were. And then the police actually said, like, listen, yeah, we want these kids to kind of pay, but they were more focused on
getting them help.
Getting them some help.
And how can we prevent this guy from turning out to be a serial killer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was kind of, and they didn't, and because they were juveniles at the time, they didn't.
Well, in some of the videos you showed me, they have mannequins or like stuffed clothes, and they're like chopping heads off and like getting on top of them and stabbing it repeatedly. Like as close as you can get to
dead.
Yeah. As close as you can get to like making, like he was doing things as close to real life as possible. And I can't imagine how long it would have taken before we would have gotten there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the fact that I was actually listening to, it's a doctor. She is doing a tour right now about teaching people in the world that work around kids and stuff like that, warning signs of potential people that can be serial killers. It comes down to the nature versus nurture issue. And some of the early indications in X, Y, or Z. And that the biggest thing that we could do as people that either work in education or hospital, mental health or anything is to actually try to get these kids help early on, because you see things like this and it just continues to escalate unless there is help. And so the fact that Unsolved Mysteries just the fact that they're finding this random tape led to potentially, serving in a mental health hospital for a juvenile charge is nothing compared to serving life in prison for murdering people or hurting people.
Well, the police actually, multiple houses in that city under construction had been burned. They linked these kids, and these kids did confess. That was the thing, is they confessed to it. They linked them to 26 fires, brush fires, and not all houses, but brush fires and houses. Most of them constructions. One house did have people in it. They were not harmed. But these kids had been burning stuff since 1987 to about 1990.
It was escalating.
It was.
Yeah.
And so thankfully they were caught. They really got lucky with their sentences. But like I said, their names were never released, so I couldn't really follow up. But I guess that one kid that did he had to register as an arsonist. I didn't even know that was a thing for a long time. So the police obviously
were able to keep an eye on him.
And if anything, I'm sure if anything popped up, he was their first one on their radar.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, thankfully, still, it is. You watch some of the videos, it's kind of sad. It's clearly sad. They were especially one of them was clearly mentally disturbed. Hopefully, he got the help that he needed, and anyways, that's your story. Kind of a wild,
it was a wild one
of a different one.
All right. So before Ben tells us his last story, I'm going to go over some of our new downloads locations we've had this week. So welcome to anybody who's downloaded us in these new areas, whether you're new to us or you're just traveling and we are along for the ride. So Lower Saxon, Germany. That's kind of cool. Corona, California. Hey, Corona and Corona. Twinsies. Sparks, Nevada. Washington, D.C., the Pentagon.
The Pentagon?
No, it didn't say the Pentagon. It actually gave an address. Pennsylvania something.
Pennsylvania Avenue, 1600?
No.
Pennsylvania
Just
Avenue.
Washington, D.C. Boone's Mills, Virginia. That sounds like a cheap alcohol beverage, like a glass bottle of Boone's Mill.
I'm here for it.
And Gouda, South Holland. Cheese and Holland. That sounds like two of my favorite things.
Cheese and Holland.
Yeah, Gouda, South Holland. So welcome. We are excited to have you guys, whether you're traveling or you are new to our show and just downloading us. We are excited to have you. Okay. Ben, what is the last story you have to tell us?
Oh, I've already talked so much. I'm already kind of done. Can we just be done with this episode?
Nope.
Can we just call it quits right here? Oh, man. All right.
This one doesn't take long.
No, this one I'm going to be quick.
Quick.
Terrible story.
Yep.
Okay. Santana family. October 18th, every year, they celebrate the birthday of their daughter, Marlene. But guess what? They don't have Marlene with them. October 18th, 1985, Francesca.
Was that a question?
Santana. Yeah, I'm just
wondering. Was it Francis Santana or Francisca?
Francisca.
Okay.
Or Francisca. Maybe it's Francisca.
Francisca?
Depends on how I spelt it. But Francisca Santana, has had a little girl. She's in the hospital. And I say October 18th, 1985.
Yeah.
So she's at the hospital caring for her child. She said 3 days later, and this is in Manhattan. Brooklyn. Sorry. I just know it was New York. She's getting ready to leave. She's at the nursery, like, the old school.
Back in the day, guys, I remember doing this as a child. I had to go visit like my grandparents or something in the hospital. The labor and delivery ward was open to the public. You could get on an elevator, go to the ward, and they like literally had the babies on display like puppy dogs.
Yeah. So there's the glass and you see all the babies in the nursery. And so Francisca's looking at her child and just so excited to take her little girl home. And there is a lady there and says to her, "Is that your baby? Is that your girl?" She goes, "Yeah." "Oh, she's so beautiful. She looks like she's just cute, well-behaved baby."
Yeah.
Whatever.
She's the quietest and the prettiest one in there. Yeah.
So she's getting ready to leave with her child at 9 p.m. Who releases?
Dude, I don't
Hospitals
know.
don't do this anyway. They clearly don't. They do not outpatient people at 9 p.m.
No, I've never heard of that before.
Especially if you've been staying there.
To me, as a layperson in hospital, I feel like at this point, it should just be you're released, you may go, but like leaving a hospital takes hours. Yeah. It's annoying. So somebody could get on that. That would be great.
She's leaving with her two sister-in-laws and they walk out 9 p.m. and onto the street of Brooklyn to go home with their...
What year is this? In the 85?
85.
Man,
with their
New York City and the surrounding areas in the 80s was not a good place.
So as they walk out of the hospital, the lady from that she saw
the moment they step out,
says, "I've been waiting for you guys all day." She goes, "Walk." She's like, "No, I'm not going anywhere." And she puts a gun to the child's head.
To the baby's
and says,
head.
"Walk or I will kill the child." So she makes them walk 6 blocks. And at first, Francisca just thinks she's going to rob us, right? No, she says, "Give me the baby."
Can you?
No, absolutely not. What do you do? And she's pointing the gun at the child. So I don't know. This is just horrendous.
Your brain is probably like, can't even comprehend that you're in this situation.
So she hands the child to this lady and tells them to keep walking. And a white car pulls up. The lady gets in. She tries to chase the car and takes off with the child.
Oh my goodness.
So they call the police. Police start investigating. They're able to narrow down that it's a white 1976 Malibu. They did a composite of the lady. They show us the composite. They think she's in her late 20s. And
she looked very 80s. The composite sketch did. Yeah.
Like short, spiky hair.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're looking for their child. So that's where Unsolved Mysteries leaves us.
Yeah.
If you've seen this, you know anything about this.
Yeah.
Seen this, please help this lady be reunited with her little girl.
Yeah.
Update.
Are
you ready?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
0.
I was shocked.
Yeah.
Especially with DNA technology that we have nowadays.
Mm-hmm. And that's been like the big push online. There's a Facebook page about this, not run by the mom. The mom's kind of, maybe she's not, but I didn't see a lot out there from her.
So from my understanding from the mom, they're immigrants. She did not speak hardly any English. Mm-hmm. And I have a feeling that her culture and her society and stuff like that, communicating and things like that. And I don't know, this is just me making a broad assumption that probably didn't really have a strong desire to be super, super in the spotlight, wanting the story to be more about it. And I think, because it was like when she was interviewed on Unsolved Mysteries, you can tell she's struggling emotionally, but also like to relay the story where English audiences can, like speaking audiences can understand it. Her accent was so heavy.
Yeah, she definitely, I don't know. Like I said, it was, so there's stuff out there, and this is clearly the big push is DNA, let's do all this. But the child doesn't know. If they've never and who's going to tell this person? At 3 days old, so they have no idea.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, though. I got onto the unsolved.com on this one and read the
comments.
There are some crazy people out there. wild. There's one person that has commented like 10 times and they're just like telling their life story, but they're saying weird
Every
things.
time there's
This is some weird stuff.
Yeah. So I don't know. You probably don't know a lot about Madeleine McCain I'm kidnapped from her hotel room overseas and different things. Like, do you remember that story? It was
No, I've never heard of this.
Anyways, there's been several infamous, I guess, kidnapping of young children that have made like worldwide news. And then without fail, at some point, some 20, 30-year-old woman who has major, technically, like mental health diagnosed issues swears up and down that they are the child of this person. And the reason their childhood was so terrible or so messed up is because they had been kidnapped and X, Y, or Z. And they always get their DNA tested. And then guess what? It's not them. And there's even a couple. There's one, I think, that's interviewed on a podcast. Her DNA has been tested against the girl that was kidnapped overseas. And it doesn't match. And she's still convinced that it's like some cover-up conspiracy X, Y, or Z from the the other guy. Like, yeah. Anyways, so
I don't know. It was terrible, and it's terrible. It's never been solved.
Yeah.
I feel terrible for that family. They literally they never got a chance to raise
3
their child.
days old. Also, who chooses to take a 3-day-old baby? You know how much work they are?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. And the thing that's crazy is I've learned, because we've had family members do adoption and things like that in the world of adoption, or I guess just growing your family in general. There is so many scams. There's a demand for babies and stuff like that. Like, it makes them a commodity, which is scary, which is now why when you go to the hospital, the maternity ward's not open to the public. They basically low jack your child when you have a baby now. Like, anytime you are in the room with your baby, your information is getting all checked. Like, they have these giant ankle monitors on babies. And if they leave that thing, the hospital shuts down.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that doesn't happen because...
But all of that is because of things that have
Exactly.
happened.
Wasn't done because people are good in the world. That is done because if there are crazy people that make terrible choices.
Yeah. So, all right. There's your 3 crazy stories.
Right. Well, then you get to just sit back and listen to me tell you about the unexplained segment of this.
I don't know about that.
Which is the Kecksburg UFO.
UFO, really?
I mean, UFO only stands for unidentified flying object. So a lot of things can be categorized as a UFO. Let's get that out up front, that a UFO doesn't always have to mean aliens. Right, Ben?
I don't know.
Okay.
We'll see. We'll find out.
Let's see. So December 9th, 1965. So we're going way back. What was going on in the world in 1965, Ben?
Vietnam War.
And?
Cold War.
And the space race.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So we have 3 major things going on in this time that I think are just important to think about while we're going through this. We have the space race, the Cold War, and Vietnam. A bright light flashes across the skies. Is reported over Canada and northeastern United States, which was seen by over 1,000 eyewitnesses. It's described as a fireball which crashed in the woods, and later described as a large metal bell-like structure about the size of a Volkswagen with Egyptian hieroglyphic-like markings etched into it, about 8 feet long, and was said to be in the shape of an acorn. When it was in the sky, it was described as an orange fireball with a tail on its end.
Tail.
I think it just meant like a tail of fire. And in the reenactment, the little graphics they did, it looks like a comet you would see. Or the More You Know from Reading Rainbow. Do you remember that star that goes across and has like the rainbow star behind it? Rainbow glitter. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
It looked like that, but without the rainbow, just red. Okay. So in Kecksburg, Pennsylvania, Rob and Ray were riding their bikes. The reenactment kids in this were great. When they saw the object flying over them in a crick.
Crick?
They call it a crick the entire time.
I loved it. I always think it was awesome.
So for anyone who doesn't know, in America, we call it typically a creek.
Well,
but
actually,
there is most of the other, like the Northeast, there's parts of, I remember even growing up like in Oregon in the South, it was called the crick.
I like crick.
You like crick?
You're
switching over?
Yeah, I'm switching.
Okay.
Crick.
In a crick nearby, another local boy named Randy was playing in like the crick and looked up and saw it flying over him. Nearby, Nevin and Natalie Kelp were playing in their yard when it flew overhead and crashed into the ravine just behind their home. Afterwards, their mother, Frances, heard an emergency broadcast on the local radio station and called in to say that it appeared that part of an airplane had crashed over the city. So some side research, I can't remember if this is on Unsolved Mysteries or not, but I saw a few other documentaries. I think it comes up later. The radio station there was a local radio station, and this reminded me of Facebook neighborhood groups. They interview the secretary or office manager of the radio station, and she's like, about 5:00, about closing time, all of the sudden, they start getting tons and tons and inundated with phone calls. And the thought of me just being like, I need information about what I just saw, or I want to share something crazy that I saw, would not to be to call your local radio station and see if they had any information or to share information. That just seems like so.
The 60s of radio was everything.
Everything. Yeah. And but then it just reminded me like, oh, but now if I hear anything weird, because we live kind of near some mines and different things like that and the Air Force Base. So sometimes we hear weird noises at weird times. And I'm like, is that something I need to be concerned about? Or,
sometimes there's a little green men running around the backyard.
There's no green men in our backyard.
And I'm like, what's this?
What's this? I just get on our local Facebook group. Sometimes I just get on there for fun because people are crazy. But that's where I go if I hear something weird or see something weird. So this was pre that. So I just thought it was a nod to the time. So Frances actually calls the radio station to say, hey, I saw this. It did not look like an airplane to me of any sorts. Kind of gave him like, hey, you're not giving correct information. Shortly after she hangs up, she gets a phone call from the U.S. Navy.
I don't believe this story.
You don't?
Nope. This is part of the story.
Okay. And was told to watch around the area of the crash and to call them back. An operator comes on the line and tells her that the police are arriving at her farm. State troopers and two unidentified men dressed in suits soon arrive at the home, and Frances tells the operator where the crash site was located. The object crashed about a half a mile behind their home.
So you're telling me that all these people are calling into the radio station.
Mm-hmm.
And she says within like 1 to 2 minutes of hanging up with the radio station, the military had her name and phone number.
So I'll tell you this. The secretary is interviewed.
Not all the other people?
The secretary at the radio station was interviewed. And here's the thing. These are like older people in a tiny little town. She has been working at this radio station. She says that actually she starts getting phone calls from people claiming to be from the military. She says that for the first hour that this is going on, she thinks that this is a bunch of teenagers playing a joke on her. I'm sure they get prank phone calls. I prank called the radio station multiple times with my friends as teenagers. So she's kind of just like, rolling her eyes at this. And so when someone then claims to be from the military and she gives the information. Well, then you need to call Frances Kelp because she just called saying this. That's my understanding.
All right, maybe.
So
maybe
Ben is just a big skeptic about everything.
Not a big skeptic about everything.
Search teams are called to locate the crash site. Volunteer fireman Jim Mays, who had the most insane beard I've ever seen in my life.
That wasn't
Did you
beard.
see it?
That wasn't a beard.
Okay, what do you call that?
It was like a kind of mustache, but like
his mustache, you guys, and his sideburns were connected. You like, okay, for people that contour their makeup, it goes from your nose. Now I just want you to imagine contouring your makeup and it cuts your jawline, up in your cheekbones.
I thought it was awesome.
No, it was terrible. It looked like awesome. The bottom of his mouth and jaw were not connected to the top of his head. It was awesome. So weird.
I'm here for it.
No, it was terrible.
About cutting that
no, don't you dare. Don't you dare.
I'm here for it.
But he's interviewed in this episode of Unsolved Mysteries, and he is part of the search team who actually ended up locating it. And he is quoted saying, "My personal opinion, what landed in Kecksburg that night was a capsule of some kind. From where or whether it was one of ours or of a foreign nation's, I have no idea." Cool. The men were told to leave the site as the military did start to arrive in the town. Now, you can't dispute that.
Nope,
okay.
I don't dispute that.
Okay. It was cordoned off by the military, and all of the civilians were refused entry. A local farmhouse owned by Linda Hayes was actually taken over. They legitimately commandeered her house and yeeted her out of it.
Yeah.
Her and her family are asked to leave while they take over.
That is wild.
So we'll get into it later, but these actions are causing this tiny little town to be like, what is going on? And rightfully so.
Yeah, absolutely.
If the military showed up and took over our house, I would have a lot of questions. Would you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So although the officials made several phone calls to unidentified individuals, no phone calls ended up on her phone bill. Did you hear that?
Top secret.
Yep. And then a teenager named Bill Weaver was one of the spectators and tried to get close to the object. As he was in the area, he saw 4 men carrying a large box down to the ravine, but appeared to be too small to fit the actual object. Was it possible that the military was removing something else? Bill and other spectators were told to leave the area.
Like little green men?
Maybe. All right, and here's another quote. The military's idea of finding completely nothing is absolutely false. There was something down in that ravine that night. There's something that glowed in awful bright light, and they took something out of the ravine. So that's a quote from one of the spectators. Meanwhile, back at the fire station, James and the others start getting back to the fire. I think there was like 30 volunteer firefighters.
Yeah, they said everyone showed up to help.
Yeah,
search.
they set off the alarm.
Technically, they thought this was a downed plane. So
yeah, that's what
it needed to be.
First responders.
Yeah. And we need to locate it and start a rescue mission.
Yeah, and you're also, this is in a ravine. I looked up pictures of this community. It's beautiful there. But it is, summertime? It's rolling hills. And yeah, you got the fire department out there because if something.
It was December.
Oh. But you don't need things catching on fire and causing problems. So yeah, the fire department needs to go out there. However, when they get back to the firehouse, the military has yet again taken it over and declares it a military active post and does not allow anyone to come in there. So what is that going to do?
I don't know.
It's going to cause people to ask questions, right? And at that point, James sees a covered object that he believes was what was in the ravine. It's on the flatbed of a truck. Linda Hayes' son, John, also believes that he saw the military convoy leaving. He said it was about the size of a Volkswagen Beetle in the back of a car, but it's all covered up. And they're flying out of town. So the military shows up, takes over a farmhouse, takes over a fire department, shows up with their cavalry, loads a bunch of stuff up, and then are gone.
Did you say, did James, is he the one that described he saw it and what he saw on it?
Oh, yeah. It was like a Forrest Gump moment with the gumbo shrimp and da-da-da, shrimp. He goes on to tell us about the writings. Do you remember he was like, I don't know if it was, I've studied ancient Egyptian.
All these,
I've studied
Hebrew,
Inca, Hebrew, Russian, Chinese. It wasn't any of those things. I doubt this man from this town that helps run the volunteer fire department has in-depthly studied foreign languages and old ancient writings.
I think he has. He's probably a Harvard professor. Right?
This is what he did like after he retired. Here's the problem. The military then shows up and reports start coming out that they didn't find anything and that they weren't really ever there.
This is the problem. The military totally blew it.
They gaslit an entire, there was hundreds of people that witnessed this. And not just witnessed something across the sky, but
found it.
But found this object. And then you're telling people there was nothing there.
Yeah, then you're trying to gaslight them and say, we didn't find anything.
Yeah.
There was nothing there. You guys are all out of your minds.
We just took over your property for nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I agree. That is, so this is going to open up. And here's the thing. The military for years, and I think to this day, claims that there was nothing found there.
I know. I looked into this a little bit.
Yeah.
Just stupid.
Okay. So here's your update, kind of. The lure around this is still going on. In fact, in the middle of July of this year, there is a UFO festival happening that happens every year. In this town. I want to go to it.
Did you see what they have in the town?
Oh, yeah. They also have a ginormous because that's based on eyewitnesses. Like what about the size and the replica of this thing at the crash site.
What did you know? Do you know what that's from? It's from the remake that they made for Unsolved Mysteries.
Oh, is it?
And
yeah. I was like, the remake that they made for Unsolved Mysteries, the shots were awesome.
But they put that up in the town. So that's the one that they made for Unsolved Mysteries.
Okay. Yeah. And it's like monumented, like at the crash site. So you can go to the crash site.
Pennsylvania's Roswell.
Yeah. Yeah. It's East Coast is Roswell. Yeah. Or Northeast. So the town looks like they've embraced the lore. And as rightfully so, multiple people saw this thing.
100%.
More than there was. Roswell only had a couple people that saw that. This had a whole town.
Technically, no one in Roswell has said all they saw was the debris field.
Yeah.
No one actually saw any craft.
Yeah. So, to this day, this object is one of the most highly disputed UFO experiences since the Roswell crash. Articles about the crash have appeared in Sky and Telescope, the Journalism for Royal Astronomy Society of Canada, and a local reporter from the radio station WHJB at the time at the crash site named John Murphy reported that the military had seized all of his wife's images along with some of his recordings from the radio. So he was at the station that night recording, and he's the one broadcasting this information.
And they took all those
supposedly, according to him, his wife had gone down for him to take pictures of it because he's a news reporter, right? And that the military, and this is accounted again by the secretary that worked there, showed up and took all of that with them. Okay. He actually went on to write a radio documentary called Object in the Woods. He was later intimidated by two men claiming to be government officials to edit or take down the documentary he was producing. Oddly enough, and this doesn't help this, John was killed in February of 1969 by a hit and run while on a trip to California. He was walking down the road and was ran over by a vehicle. No charges were ever brought against or found to the person who did it.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, here's the thing. That stinks for John. He was murdered, right?
Yeah.
That he was killed tragically. Whether that has anything to do with anything at all, I mean, but it doesn't help the situation that this guy had pictures or recordings and was like boots on the ground at the beginning of this.
Yeah, but he's pretty much telling the same story. Like, hey, I saw it and I had this, and they're telling me not. And just like the firefighters, like, yeah, we saw this. We literally saw it.
Yeah.
Not just one, but multiple guys.
Yeah. It just, to me, it's one more piece of the puzzle that definitely surrounds the lure about this object that fell from the sky. Because here's the thing. At the end of the day, whether you believe in alien spacecrafts, no one could dispute that something did fall from the sky that day.
Well, so this is my thought on, I was going to say this. We've talked about a lot of stories where it's one or two people and their conspiracy is that all of these other people have colluded. Take the RFK, right?
Yeah.
That there was all these people, all these police officers, all this stuff, the CIA, they all colluded to do this. And there was a second shooter, but whatever. This is the opposite. And the fact of you have all these people telling the same story.
Yeah.
Whereas, yeah, I saw this. It's not one person saying I saw this and you're trying to like piece all this and that. And then there's all these people trying to like dispute that one or two people.
Yeah.
You have pretty much a whole town.
No one is disputing at the end of the day, an object fell from the sky.
And that's the point is there clearly something fell.
Yeah.
Something happened in that town. And they're not, and whatever the military is saying is not true. That something fell in that town.
And this wasn't just, and I think
something was recovered.
At first, NASA said it was a meteor or something like that. So I also watched it was just like a 5-minute documentary thing about someone that just brought up some points. This person, I don't know why they were researching this. Who was president at the time?
1965, LBJ.
LBJ at the time. Because you can actually like almost down to like the hour look at presidential like timeframes. Like what they ate, all of this stuff is recorded, right? He was in Texas at the time. And for some reason, that same night or the next morning, I don't know, the governor of that state, Pennsylvania, and someone from the Secretary of Defense and someone from high up in NASA flew into his home in Texas and had a meeting with him off. The meeting notes obviously are not recorded. That's confidential. And that, you know, with everything, the space race and the Cold War and all of that going on, if you add that into it, and then to bring in the governor of the era and NASA, it goes to show that the government was looking into this. Now, for them to come out and say, we didn't find anything, there wasn't anything there, or NASA at first was saying it was a meteor. No, meteors happen all the time, come into Earth's atmosphere, and that doesn't require the president of the United States having someone from NASA come meet him on vacation.
Well, and I read something. If it was a meteor, why not just come out and show it and say it? Like, hey,
cool guys, let's put this in the local museum. I don't know. Yeah, like.
Well, and that's contradicting because if the NASA saying it was a meteor, but the military saying we didn't recover anything, which we know you did.
Yeah.
Well, if it was a meteor, then just say, yeah, hey, check it out. Look at what we got. It wouldn't be the first meteor that it was recovered.
No. So in 2005, NASA did officially change its, quote, opinion on the object.
Yeah,
they switched it from meteor to a fallen Soviet satellite named Cosmo 96. In the statement, it's reported that experts had examined fragments from the area and determined that they were from a Soviet satellite. However, records of any findings of this case were lost back in 1987. They have nothing to show. So again, that just adds to it.
Adds to the lure.
In 2015, 2 researchers announced that they believed it was the GE Mark II re-entry vehicle that was a nose cone of several rockets that were used in the 1960s and allegedly used to spy on Russians. It had jets that could have allowed it to make turns, because that was the other thing. This didn't just fall in a pattern. It was marked making turns and motions. In fact, one time it made a full, like, almost U-turn, which is different. Meteors don't do that. Falling objects without anything propelling them doesn't do that. It was also made of copper, which could explain green flames, which were seen by some witnesses. And finally, it had markings on it that could have been misinterpreted as foreign markings. However, the military continues to insist that the object seen was likely a meteor. Yeah, and a model of the original is also on display near the fire station and the crash site. So,
what's your thoughts?
All right, these are my thoughts. I believe that there are other worlds out there, 100%. There's no way in this vast universe we are the only ones of intelligent life.
Okay.
I believe in UFOs and I believe in aliens. With that said, I think 98% of these can be what you would say, like, let's rule out several other things before we get there. This, to me, is one of the strongest cases for it to be some sort of alien spacecraft. I don't think it had aliens in it that fell to Earth. But I also believe that if we stop along the road of before we get to aliens, you add in the Cold War.
The space race.
And the space race, but the problem is since the military won't release anything on it, like to me, I'm like, now we're past all of those things. Why? This has to be sitting somewhere. Right?
Maybe.
Or pictures of it, or people that worked on it. It was removed from the thing. Something was done to this. I think it would be interesting to see what it actually looks like or have anyone speak on it. Because to me, you can't eliminate UFO, foreign, Russian spy stuff, or our own technology spying or space stuff until we have the ability to examine it. So all 4 options have to kind of still stay on the table.
Okay. Let's say they did. They came out and they said it was this. Would you buy it?
If I could see it myself, Well,
the military came out and said that the Roswell one was a weather balloon. A top secret
weather balloon. I don't believe that anything crashed in Roswell.
Well, I mean, something did.
Yeah, I don't believe that little green men
UFO.
were.
Yeah.
No. I believe this far more as a UFO than I do that one.
Yeah. Okay.
But do I believe the government lies to us?
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
Well, they lied to us about the Roswell thing. They're clearly lying about this. Yeah. And this is me. Like, I'm actually on the people's side. These guys, all these firefighters, it wasn't just one. It was multiple. Said, yeah, we found this thing. We found it. And this is what it looked like.
And we walked down to it.
Yeah, we saw it.
Yeah.
So, like I said, it wasn't just like 1 or 2 guys. And you had a whole town that saw something.
Yeah.
So then for the military to say, we didn't find anything. Yeah, come on, man. You're lying.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the spy satellite is the most likely.
The GE Mark II reentry vehicle.
Yeah, I read that.
Yeah.
And why the military doesn't have it. It says it was probably one of many and it got returned. They did their research on it, what failed or what happened, and it's been destroyed or reused or whatever. At that time, we do know the military was trying. We were doing everything we could to build as much top secret stuff without the USSR knowing.
Yeah.
And I think it was either a military thing they were using or a NASA thing they were using. It crashed. It fell. They recovered it, did their research on it. Why the military just won't come out and say that? I don't know. But
and that's the question, huh?
Or they just don't care.
Yeah.
They're like, whatever.
But do you believe in the history of Earth that any beings have ever visited our planet?
No. Nope.
I do. There's like hieroglyphics and stuff like that that depict like visitors.
No.
And so you believe every single like alien abduction story is what?
I definitely don't believe that.
You don't believe anyone's ever been abducted by aliens?
No, absolutely not. That is
everyone's just making these stories up?
Cuckoo.
No. Oh my gosh. I love that we have completely different views on this.
No.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I will say that I am with you. I do believe there is intelligent life out there. But no, there's not people that have flown a ship here and landed and, hey, let's check you out. Nope.
No. Okay. I think there has been. I will say, do I believe every single alien abduction or encounter story? No. People, like I've said, love to pretend that they were kidnapped or say that they're this person or call and give fake leads. If there is a trend for attention, people will jump on it. But I believe that there is a handful of those stories that are true. Now we could get into the nuance of, did they have some experience, some sort of thing where they really genuinely believed something happened to them that didn't? Yeah, that's a different conversation for a different day, but you're okay. All right, if anyone is actually still sticking around,
I think it's a great conversation to have. I think it's fun because you don't take it super. I don't take it super seriously.
I am not going to UFO conventions. I'm not.
Well, and here's the thing. I love hearing the stories. Yeah. And
but you love to hear the stories because you laugh at people. I like to hear the stories because I find it intriguing.
I try to hear every story and listen first. And then 99.9% of the time I come to the conclusion, no, that didn't happen. Mm-hmm. And you know what? Most likely I'm going to find out that I was wrong and all of my thoughts and all of my opinions. And I got a lot of opinions and a lot of that. Clearly people hear it. And I'm not afraid to say that I very well could be wrong.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah,
and maybe it's just I'm
this
unwilling.
Isn't bothering you enough to have this conversation. There are people that are so staunch on either side of this that even having a conversation lighthearted would like send them into.
No, this would never send me into a
tailspin of some sort.
No, I'm not that passionate about any of this.
No.
If someone came to me and told me their story, I wouldn't even tell them I disbelieve them to their face. I'm like, hey man, that's great. It's a great story. Thanks for telling me.
Yeah.
Have a wonderful day. And I would leave it at that.
Well, what about ghost stories?
Those are different.
That's different. Okay. You're a little bit more.
Because I do believe in life after death. So I do believe there are souls and ghosts. So possible for people to see those things.
Yeah.
I don't. There are some, clearly I've made my opinions known. Like the ghost ship, that one was great. It was funny. And I don't necessarily buy into all of it, or what's happening, because some of it's just like, yeah, that doesn't make sense. That's
kind of how I feel about aliens.
Okay.
It's kind of your viewpoint. Okay. I'm like, there's intelligent life out there. Who am I to say that there's not something of another species or something that is far superior and intelligent than we are that has interacted with us in some way, shape, or form? Do I believe everything? No. But do I believe that some of these things could have happened to people? Yeah. But I also like, you give me a good alien movie and I'm here for it. Independence Day is
I love a good
amazing.
Love a good alien movie.
Yeah. War of the Worlds, incredible. Like,
it's awesome.
Yeah.
Independence Day, great. I mean, That show, Falling Skies.
That was such a good show.
That was a great show.
Even Resident Alien, which is a comedy about aliens. It's hilarious.
Great.
Yeah.
I am totally here for those stories.
Yeah. I was talking to Peyton, our daughter, and one of her friends, maybe. And we were talking about this, aliens and stuff like that. And I can't remember how the conversation got started, but like that we might be just like the laughing stock of the universe. And people have like, you pulled such an Earth, or like, oh, that's so earthy of you, or something where it's just like idiots on a planet just in a dumpster fire. So that if anyone actually even came to our planet, they would look around and be like, yeah, I don't think I want to be here anymore. These people don't know what they're doing. They haven't, like, we're out. And so I thought that was kind of a funny way to, like, maybe in the Galactic International Federation, we are just ignored because we are the idiots of the universe.
Maybe. I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
I'm all right with it.
All right. Well, that is our recap of season 3, episode 1 of Unsolved Mysteries. And if you'd like to stick around, we always end the podcast with a silly question. Ben.
All right.
If you had to pack a zombie go bag, what are 5 things you would put in there?
Zombie go bag?
Yeah, you know what a go bag is. Like,
I do know what a go bag is.
Do I need to explain to you?
No.
Zombie go bag. What are 5 things you would want to put in your go bag for specifically the zombie apocalypse? Breaking news. All of our phones beep. There is reports of zombies. Everyone needs to get to X, Y, or Z. You've got to grab your zombie bag. What's in it?
Never thought about this.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, obviously, a gun.
Okay.
You got to have
a weapon.
One of my guns.
Okay.
And ammunition.
Is that one thing or 2?
I would count it as one.
Okay.
You can't have one without the other. If you try to count it as 2.
Throwing bullets at people like, dink.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
I don't know. What do you need?
And you only have 5
here's
things.
The real question.
Okay.
Do you stay put or do you run?
Yeah. I mean, if it's a go bag, here's the thing. I'll tell you what I learned from watching zombie movies. I ain't going to the military bases where they say, come here for a safe spot. I'm not doing that.
It's too dangerous.
That's dangerous. I'm instantly going to Costco and locking that place down, and that's going to be my warehouse.
No, that's too big.
Too big to
too
control.
Big to secure.
Okay.
But the other question, do you live in the woods where it's,
Yeah, here in Arizona where we live, there's no water or food resources.
Yeah,
we're done.
In trouble.
Yeah.
The first thing
we
got
to get out of here. So you need 5 things in your go bag to get us out of here.
All right.
So we got guns and ammo.
Guns and ammo. I guess you need a car. Does that count?
Sure. You got a vehicle.
I can put my car in my go bag? Or is my taking my go bag and putting it in my
You're taking your go bag and putting it in your truck.
And going.
Okay. Yeah.
So I guess stuff to just live out in the area. So like flint and steel. I don't know. An axe. If you need that.
Mm-hmm. Shelter.
Yeah, maybe a tent.
Water purifier straw.
That absolutely.
Yeah.
Water purifier straw. And go, I guess. I don't know. I haven't thought about that.
Yeah.
I haven't really put that together. It's terrible. 5 things. What do you got? I already know for you. This is what Sierra's answer. Let me tell you guys Sierra's answer.
What is my answer?
So whenever that something tough comes and she says, and I say, how would you survive this? She goes, I wouldn't. I would just give up. I don't even want to try.
There's even parts when I'm watching a scary movie and some guy's out murdering teenagers everywhere. I'd be like, at one point, I would just be like, I am exhausted.
Sierra,
this is too much.
Sierra would say, or if you're telling me I need a bag and I got to go on the run, I'll just stay right here and wait for it all to be over.
Let me know if things change.
Yeah.
Let me know when you get there. Come back and get me.
If you find a way to make it.
If I have a go bag, and I'm with Ben, so I'm assuming he's got a lot of the main essentials. My go bag. And that's the other thing I told Ben. I was like, I'm going to turn to you and be like, do you have what I need? If I'm with Ben, I'm okay. But if I'm by myself when something goes down, don't even come looking for me because I've given up.
You just gave up.
I'm done. Yeah. But if I'm with Ben, this is what I have in my go bag. Caffeine of some sort, because eventually I'm going to get a headache and I'm going to need caffeine. So I've got all the caffeine water Crystal Light drinks packets. So we're good to go. Our water's going to taste good. Okay. I would also need chapstick because I don't want my lips to get dry when you're out running around. That's miserable. You know what? I would probably try to pack alcohol of some sort to use as like a bartering chip to try to get things from people, or like things that people are going to be desperate for. So I'd fill up my bag with like medications and stuff like that so I can barter with people.
What are you going to, why barter if you could just grab it now?
Well, like, I don't know, food. I don't want to eat fish. That's my biggest concern, is that I'm going to have to eat rats and fish, and I don't want to do that. So
I'm
going to have a bunch of MREs, so I don't have to.
You're going to run out of those eventually.
Toilet paper, and Lysol wipes, hand sanitizer. These are the things that would be in my bag. Paper plates, plastic straws.
My kids have already decided, like, Mom wouldn't survive. We would just be us and you.
Go on without me.
Mm-hmm. Be us and you, Dad.
I just don't want to live in a world where life is miserable every day. If I have to fight for survival every single day,
most people,
with that at any point could be that someone eats my brains, no. I'm going to get dressed in the cutest outfit. My makeup's going to look beautiful. And then I'm going to take a long nap in my car and I'm going to be found perfectly preserved like that. Not with my body rotting and being dragged down the street.
Throughout history, people have had to fight to survive.
That, but I was lucky and blessed enough. I understand my privilege right now of being born in modern day comforts is showing. My air conditioner being turned off, I'm already annoyed. So fight for daily survival? No. Well, that's got to be exhausting. So, yeah, that's my answer. I mean, I have a podcast, so that's the part of me that will live on forever that doesn't have to run from a zombie. But if you need hand sanitizer or ibuprofen or caffeine, I got your back.
You're in it.
And Lysol spray.
Because that's what you need to survive.
Exactly. All right, everybody. That's our show. Thanks for joining Ben and I as we recapped one of your original gateway drugs into true crime.
Unsolved Mysteries.
Bye.